Today we're going to discuss one of the most critical and important topics that we will ever discuss in spirit science. Among all of the things we have discussed, this is one that needs to be taken seriously and is the most important part of the evolution of consciousness that we are experiencing today. Today we shall discuss the power of the heart. Let's just dive right into this. What does the heart have to do with anything? Well, it's pretty much everything. When you're first incarnating at a microscopic level, the physical body starts out as a cell, or as we call it in the geometry world, a sphere. Then, you begin to multiply inwards to understand how your own spherical geometry works. Once your sphereness understands itself inwards, it can begin to expand outwards. You soon become a four-celled organism in the form of a tetrahedron. Soon after that, you become a star tetrahedron, which is the egg of life form we discussed in lesson 6. From this diagram, it probably looks more like a cube, but if you rotate it, you begin to see the star tetrahedron form. This form is 8 cells, which from a metaphysical perspective is the basis of the 8 base chakras in the octave of your body. After that, you become a mess of cells for a while, but eventually you become a toroidal field. The space at the very core of that field is where your first actual organ appears, which is the heart. Okay, so the heart is the first organ that appears as you're manifesting into physical reality. What else? Well, the brain and the heart are both electromagnetic field generators, but the heart has a field that is so much more powerful than the brain. In fact, the heart is 100 times electrically stronger and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. This is important because those two fields are the fields that make up the reality we exist within: electrical and magnetic, electromagnetic fields. We're going to look at the work now of the Institute of HeartMath, which is an organization with over 19 years of research and study on the psychophysiology of stress, emotions, and the interactions between the heart and the brain. The information they have discovered and compiled is revolutionary. On the technical side, the Institute puts a lot of focus into understanding the spaces between the heartbeat, which is called the heart rate variability, or HRV for short. It used to be assumed in science that the heart at rest beat like a metronome, faithfully beating out a steady rhythm. Moment-to-moment variations of the heartbeat are generally overlooked when your heart rate is being measured by a doctor, who will take your pulse and tell you that your heart is beating at, say, 70 beats per minute. Through the use of a technology called electrocardiogram and EM wave scanners, scientists were able to measure every heartbeat in real time and learned that a healthy heart, even under resting conditions, were actually quite irregular. In a simplified sense, your heart does not beat like clockwork as it was once assumed, but even healthy hearts tend to beat quite irregularly. Why is this important? By understanding how your heart is beating, we begin to have a clearer picture of our adaptability to the environmental and situational demands that we find ourselves in. If your boss at work tells you to do some extra work, your heart will paint a clear picture of how you're reacting. If you're totally cool with it, the heart will maintain the same general flow that it was already going at. If this new information causes you to feel stress, that will be demonstrated by the heartbeat fluctuating into an intense chaotic mess, or somewhere in the middle. Now, these fluctuations in how your heart beats come from a variety of sources and demonstrate our physiological resilience and behavioral flexibility to our experiences. Research done at the Institute of HeartMath has shown that one of the most powerful factors in affecting our heart's changing rhythm is our feelings and emotions. When our varying heart rate is plotted over time, the overall shape of the waveform is called our heart rhythm pattern. HeartMath has demonstrated that the emotions we experience directly affect our heart rhythm pattern, and this in turn shows us how our body is functioning. In general, emotions like stress, anger, frustration, and anxiety cause the heart rhythm pattern to become very chaotic, like so. This waveform looks like a series of uneven, jagged peaks. Physiologically, this shows us that the heart is not in harmony with itself. This can be likened to driving a car with one foot on the accelerator and the other foot on the brake at the same time, possibly while trying to go from first gear to fourth and then back. This creates an incredibly jerky ride, burns more gasoline, and isn't great for the car altogether. Likewise, when your heart is functioning from a place of stress and anxiety, it causes our bodies to operate insufficiently, deplete our energies, and produce extra wear and tear on the whole system. This is especially true if stress and negative emotions are prolonged or experienced often. What about positive emotions? Well, there is a massive visible contrast. positive emotions send a very different signal throughout our body. When we experience uplifting emotions like love, appreciation, joy, and care, our heart rhythm pattern becomes a highly ordered, smooth, and harmonious wave. We begin to match the waveforms that are seen in the color spectrum, or perhaps we could liken it to music. This is one aspect of what it means to be more harmonious with nature, and since nature flows through sacred geometry, we are also becoming more aligned consciously with ourselves and the universe around us. It is no wonder that positive emotions feel so good. They actually help our body system become more harmonious and synchronize and work better. The Institute of Heart Math has shown that generating sustained positive emotions facilitates a body-wide shift to a specific, scientifically measurable state called psychophysiological coherence. Let's break this down. Psycho comes from psychological, which means mental and emotions, and physiological means body. Coherence is systematic or logical connection or harmony. Altogether, it means a harmony of both body, mind, and emotional functions. If you're familiar with the four elements, you know that earth is the physical, so body, air is mental, mind, water is emotions, and fire is spirit. HeartMath has scientifically shown now that positive and healthy emotions bring 3 of those elements into coherence, and although they don't look at the spiritual aspect, I don't doubt that the fire element also comes into harmony. In an experiment done at the Institute, they hooked up scanners to an individual who was subjected to very chaotic emotions. For 300 seconds, they measured the respiration, heart rate variability, and blood pressure rhythm. After this time, the individual on the scanners did a technique on himself which they have dubbed the HeartMath Quick Coherence Technique, which activated a feeling of love and appreciation. Instantly, all 3 of the rhythms came into entrainment and harmony with each other, and stayed in harmony for the remainder of the experiment. One important note to stress is that cohesion is not relaxation. The process of relaxation is a low energy state in which the individual rests both body and mind, typically disengaging from cognitive and emotional processes. In contrast, coherence is experienced as a calm and balanced, yet energized and responsive state of being that is optimal for mental acuity, focus, problem solving, and decision making, as well as the physical activity and coordination. So coherence is the natural state you want to be in all the time. Unless you're relaxing, that's good too. So how does one get into this state of cohesion? Breathing. Your breath is intimately connected to your heart rate and your heart in general. And if you ever find yourself in a very chaotic mental state, take a few seconds to step back of what's causing the chaos and focus on your breath. Take long and deep breaths. The Institute of Heart Math doesn't put too much focus into particular breathing techniques, but they put an emphasis on using your breath as well as positive and loving emotions to bring you back into a state of cohesion. They say that it's not super necessary to put focus on your breath all the time, but it is very helpful to bring yourself out of chaos and back into alignment. From a spiritual perspective, and if you're working towards that, breath is very important. However, breath is another huge topic, and I personally recommend focusing on your breath during meditations. Focusing on breathing and your heart is a beautiful way to move into a silent space during meditation and deeper into yourself, all while sustaining the same healthy emotions. Now, throughout ancient history, across many religions and belief systems, the heart was always considered a center of the being, the source of spiritual wisdom and insight, thought, emotion, and connection to the divine. The ancient Egyptians believed that all thought and life was done from the heart, which is why they threw away the brain after the pharaoh died, but they left the heart in the body. They felt that the being would need it in the next life, so they left it there, but the brain was useless. Western scientific thought places the heart as just a pump. However, in the last several decades, science has begun to go full circle in realizing and understanding what these ancient civilizations knew and taught. In the field of neurocardiology, scientists have discovered that the heart possesses its own intrinsic nervous system, a network of brain cells with over 40,000 neurons. This gives the heart the ability to independently sense and process information, and make decisions, even demonstrate a type of learning and memory. In a simplified sense, you can think with your heart. The heart is truly an intelligent system. The heart also has found to be a hormone gland, manufacturing and secreting numerous hormones and neurotransmitters that profoundly affect the brain and body function. Among these hormones is one called oxytocin, well known as the love or bonding hormone, bringing things together. Science is also beginning to understand that the electromagnetic field around the heart has a powerful effect on not just the human body, but others around you as well. Research has also shown that the heart is the key component of the emotional system. Science now understands that the heart not only responds to emotions, but the signals it sends out dramatically affects the quality of the emotional experience from moment to moment, and also that our heart plays a key role in accessing our intuition. In school, we've been taught that the heart is constantly responding to orders sent from the brain. But what's less commonly talked about is that the brain receives even more orders from the heart. We've been doing it backwards. Moreover, these signals have a significant effect on brain function, influencing emotional processes as well as higher cognitive faculties such as attention, perception, memory, and problem solving. Guide yourself from your heart, not from your brain. When you allow your negative emotions to get to you, you disconnect from your ability to think clearly, remember things, learn lessons, reason, and make effective decisions, which explains why often we act impulsively and unwisely under stress. The heart's signal has a profound effect on the brain during positive and negative emotions. Live in your heart, for the heart is the center of unity consciousness, where the brain is the center of duality consciousness. You can see that right in how they're made. The brain has the two hemispheres. The heart is a place of unity. Since we fell in consciousness, we moved from heart consciousness and into our brains, and all decisions were made from the brain. In doing so, we became polarized and lost our connections to the universal consciousness called unity. This shift in consciousness we are experiencing now is a movement from the brain and back into the heart, where we will once again know and understand the universe and unconditional love for everyone and all things, regardless of who they are or what damage they've done to themselves or others. And this is why the heart is so important right now. Live in your heart. It is the gateway to the divine.
The power of the human heart is so deeply acknowledged in many indigenous traditions that there is one tradition in Mesoamerica from a tribe that's actually called the Kogi. The Kogi so deeply emphasize the power and the significance of our relationship to our hearts that when their children are born, for the first couple of years of their lives, the children are kept almost in completely darkened conditions and kept separate from the physicality of the world around them, so that the world that they develop first is the inner knowing of their heart before they develop the perceptions of the world around them. And in doing that, as the basis, then they are exposed to the sensuality of the physical world around them and other people around them. And their orientation is so very, very different. Now, many people in the West, when we hear that, it sounds very strange to us. Some people think it may actually sound cruel. But the net result of the way that these young people begin to live is their entire frame of reference becomes heart-based, and that is the perspective from which they begin to experience their world, rather than their minds discounting the power of the heart. And I'm not suggesting that we need to deprive ourselves of the physical world to have the experience. But what I am saying is I think there are things that we can encourage in our young people early in our lives and now as adults that we can learn for ourselves to cultivate and develop what is called the heart intelligence, this power of our hearts to inform us of relationships, of experiences in the world that we simply cannot perceive through our mind alone. And I think this, again, I think it's one of the great frontiers. There's an organization in Northern California, a pioneering research organization that has been formed specifically to explore the power of the human heart in very unconventional ways, and it is called the Institute of Heart Math, H-E-A-R-T, capital M-A-T-H, but it's all one word. I'm not an employee of Heart Math, but I have known these people almost since their inception, since the early 90s. We've worked together on some very, very powerful projects. They are scientists, engineers, medical doctors, computer scientists, physicists, academics from many different careers that have left those careers to pool their resources for the sole purpose of exploring the power of the human heart in ways that we have never explored in the West, in modern science in the past. We all know that the heart can pump blood, for example, but you can build a machine to pump the blood. What we're finding, what Heart Math is now finding, is that may be the least of what the heart does. The heart does so much more than simply pump blood. And we're only beginning to understand. For example, what the people at the Institute of Heart Math have documented as scientific fact, published in peer-reviewed journals, is the fact that the human heart is surrounded by a field of energy. It's electrical energy and it's magnetic energy. You can measure it with conventional equipment if it's tuned properly. This field is called a torus, a tube torus. It looks essentially like a donut that extends from the physical heart into the world around us for a distance of about 5 to 8 feet. And I asked one of the primary researchers, I said, if this field is so powerful, I said, why does it stop at 5 feet or 8 feet? And he said, that's the limitation of my equipment. He said, if we had better equipment, what the equipment is showing is that the heart field probably extends for a distance of many, many miles. On the physical level, on the quantum level, he said it's probably infinite, because it's very difficult to tell where this electrical and magnetic field ends in the quantum field. Well, the value of knowing this, what it says to us is if we're in a room with hundreds of people and we're all within 5 to 8 feet of one another, we may be physically separate, but we are sharing a heart field. And the longer we're in that room together, the more our fields begin to meld together. There is a relationship between the heart and the brain where the two organs may tune to one another in a very specific way. I've mentioned earlier that it is the signal from the heart to the brain that tells the brain what kind of chemistry to release into the body. What I didn't say is that the quality of that signal is called coherence. So when we have what is called a high coherence between the heart and the brain, which can be measured, it's quantified, it's a very, very low frequency, 0.10 hertz is optimum coherence. If we can create a feeling in our hearts that generates 0.10 hertz between our heart and our brain, we are now in optimum coherence. And what that means is that we're functioning optimally, that this is the best signal that we can create. And in this way, this is where our brain now is releasing powerful chemistry into our bodies. Super immune response comes from 0.10 hertz. There's a new science that's called epigenetics. Epigenetics means above genetics. It means there's something happening above our DNA that influences the DNA. What the studies are showing is that human emotion, heart-based emotion, is one of the signals that literally influences the DNA in our bodies. It is now very well noted that longevity is directly linked to these feelings, for example. And many of the systems in the body that seem mysterious to us, and we're looking for chemicals and drugs to turn those systems on. What the studies are showing is that emotion is a signal that will enable those systems. For example, aging. We know that in the aging process, every time the cell divides, at the end of the DNA, there are portions of DNA that are called telomeres, or telomeres. They're pronounced both ways. They become brittle as we go through the aging process, and each time the cell divides, a little bit of that telomere is no longer able to reproduce. It breaks off. It's because it is brittle. And when it breaks off enough times, it can't reproduce. That's what we call the aging process in the cell. Well, interestingly, our bodies have an enzyme that is designed to heal and to repair those telomeres. It is called telomerase. And the question has been, how do we activate telomerase? And what has been found is that it is the quality of emotion between the heart and the brain that literally can activate the telomerase and have a direct impact upon the aging of our bodies. So the question is, what kinds of emotions create those kinds of effects? They're the emotions that our mother has always told us about, and that our most cherished traditions have always said, positive heart-based emotions such as care, such as gratitude, such as appreciation, compassion. Those are the kinds of experiences that we may have in our hearts that literally give our bodies a new lease on life. The chemistry responds to those. Our indigenous ancestors knew it, but it wasn't science. Our own science is bearing it out. So this is one example of where there is a knowledge from our past. It's ancient, it's not obsolete. And I think it has direct bearing on where we're going with our studies today. If we can marry the wisdom of the past with the best science of today, marry them together into something that's greater than the science all by itself, and greater than the spiritual traditions all by themselves. Marry these two great ways of knowing together into a wisdom that maybe has not been in this world for a very long time. That gives us the edge, the evolutionary edge to deal with the crises that we are faced with in our world that maybe our ancestors didn't have. And that's one of the reasons I'm so optimistic about where we're going, because of the willingness to embrace the wisdom of the past and honor the best science of our time today.
Most people know what it feels like to be in a state of harmony and flow, where our hearts and minds are working together, and there's a genuine connection with others involved. It's easy to love this experience of synergy, but oftentimes this happens by chance, rather than by design or intention. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to produce this flow on demand in our day-to-day communications, projects, and challenges? Research shows that when we shift into a coherent state, the heart and brain operate synergistically, like two systems that mesh into one. We can learn how to activate and sustain the synergy between the heart and brain and prevent stress-producing patterns, along with increasing our mental clarity and discernment capacity. When we do this, our creative solutions for personal, social, and global challenges become more accessible, providing us with more intuitive access and flow. Over the past 20 years, the Institute of Heart Math has produced coherence-building techniques that are intentionally simple and based on scientific research. Our mission theme is to simplify a process for intuitive connection to the soul's wisdom and guidance for unfolding who we truly are. New research suggests that our energetic or spiritual heart is an access point for our natural inner technology, the heart's intuitive intelligence, which can elevate our communications, decisions, and choices to a much higher level of effectiveness. One interesting finding from our research is that when people hold genuine core heart feelings such as appreciation or compassion, it naturally increases their heart coherence. We use the term energetics to refer to the systems that we can't see or touch. For example, our thoughts, emotions, and intuitions. The mind and heart feelings are energetic sources that underlie our thoughts and emotions. They're primary drivers of our biological systems and have a powerful influence on our behaviors, choices, and results. The intuitive, energetic heart is what people have associated with their inner voice throughout history. From our perspective, the energetic heart communicates a steady stream of intuitive information to the mind and brain, which in most cases we only use a small percentage of, because our ego choices overrides the intuitive suggestion. Access to our heart's intuition varies among people, yet we all have it. As we learn to slow down our mind and attune to our deeper heart feelings, our natural intuitive connection can occur. Intuition is like energetic gold. Intuitive insights often unfold more understanding of ourselves, others, issues, and life than years of accumulated knowledge. That's why the state of coherence is rapidly gaining interest. In this state, more and more people are reporting increased access to their heart's intuitive guidance, realizing it's within them, and with a little practice, it's easier to access than they thought. Research conducted in our laboratories has confirmed that when an individual is in heart coherence, the heart radiates a more coherent electromagnetic energy field that can benefit people, animals, and the environment. A growing body of scientific evidence suggests that when there is coherent group cooperation, it results in increased flow, effectiveness, and the potential for higher outcomes. It seems as though the group participants are not only in sync, but are communicating on an unseen, energetic level. Our personal coherence can benefit our families, co-workers, friends, pets, and more, simply by our presence. From our research, we know that heart coherence is not an idle state. It reaches out, it influences and supports others in many beneficial ways. Scientific evidence provides support for a global field environment that connects all living systems and consciousness. Many scientists believe that a feedback loop exists between all humans and the Earth's energetic systems. We are working together with other initiatives to realize the increased effectiveness of collective intention and cooperation. There are growing numbers of organizations with tools and techniques that facilitate increased art connection and collaboration with others. This evolves into a collective opening of the heart, which is a major step towards increasing social and global coherence. We call this heart-based living. IHM, through its Global Coherence Initiative project, is strategically placing 14 sensors around the world to measure the Earth's magnetic resonance. This global network will enable our scientific inquiry into the interconnections between the Earth's magnetic field and collective human emotions and behaviors. Science has shown that the Earth's magnetic field affects humans in profound ways, but our intention is to study how humans, as a collective, affect the Earth's magnetic field environment. Every individual's energy contributes to the global field environment, and each person's thoughts, emotions, and intentions affects the field. A first step in increasing the coherence of the field environment is for each individual to take responsibility for their own energy. We can do this by becoming more conscious of the thoughts, feelings, and attitudes that we are feeding the field each day. Our hypothesis is that as enough individuals increase their heart coherence, it leads to increased social coherence. As a critical mass of cultures and nations become more harmoniously aligned, this can eventually lead to increased global coherence and sustainable peace. Doc Childre, the founder of HeartMath, puts it this way: as more of humanity practices heart-based living, it will qualify the rite of passage into the next level of consciousness. Using our heart's intuitive guidance will become common sense based on practical intelligence.
The ultimately source of inner strength, source of peace, is not on money, not on power, but not only on our intelligence or knowledge, but warm-heartedness. There's nothing to do with religion. Even now, modern scientists, they say, more compassionate person, you get more peace of mind. That immense benefit for our health and a happier human family. So, my commitment to promotion of human value, that means mainly promotion of warm-heartedness.
The subject was power of women. This also quite my favorite sort of topic. Women should take more active role in the society. In sort of very early period of human, at that time, no concept of leadership. All equal. Work together. Whatever they get, something eatable, share equally. Then population increase. So then quarrels, stealings. Then the concept of leadership come. So in order to become leader of the community, strong physical sort of body. So that is the beginning of male dominance. So now we are 21st century. Modern education basically is oriented about material values. Like Japan, materially highly developed. Education also good, but number of cases of suicide among the young student also increasing. What's wrong? And like New York or Los Angeles, big cities, millions and millions of people live together, but many of them feel lonely. Social problems, particularly unrest or violence among the younger generation. So the participants, some scientists, some doctors, some social workers, like that. And then all sort of agree, existing sort of system, the lack of human affection, personally in the family, and whole atmosphere, lack of affection. Without that, no genuine cooperation, too much competition. That brings suspicion, distrust. That brings loneliness. So therefore, the existing modern education system, I think one-sided, only concerned about brain development and neglect about warm-heartedness, sense of responsibility. So now, we really need more effort for promotion of warm-heartedness. Very young age period, lacking love, compassion, affection from parent or without a parent. And deep inside, some sense of insecurity. Eventually, so I think more sort of female, mature female leadership comes. I think less danger of violence. I really feel. But not yet tested. Oh, future Dalai Lama could be female Dalai Lama. That's my sort of reason. I really feel. So in any way, the female, as you mentioned, our mother. Mother is the foundation of happy family. That I feel now time has come. We really need more effort regarding promotion of warm-heartedness, affection, compassion. Here, female should take more active role regarding promotion of these inner value.
So here we see that you've got the person who is sending energy. This is the right side, is sending of energy, and on this side is the receiving of energy. So from the right side, when you talk about, because the emotional heart is on the right, it is sending, so there is a little burst, and of course these bursts are captured.
And it's separate from the body. It's leaving, this burst is leaving the body.
Indeed.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the receiver is receiving it. And look at the shape of that too.
How far away are they physically from each other during the explosion?
2 buildings.
2 buildings?
2 buildings.
So this burst of energy traveled 2 buildings and went to
this person who was the receiver.
And this is documented scientifically as biophoton emissions.
Yes, yes.
If we attempt to send someone we are tuned into a message with our mind, will they hear it? Will they receive it?
Protocol where we have instruments on both people, both sender and receiver, and they physically situated in different places, and it may be in different places in Moscow and St. Petersburg, or Moscow to St. Petersburg, or Himalaya to Moscow, Nepal to Moscow, Venezuela to Moscow. So we did a lot of experiments of this kind. In any situation we have time that is related to astronomical time, and it's all now possible by GPS to correlate all this. And we were able, and we are measuring moment of sending emotion, because we are sending not images, not some pictures, not letters, but we are sending emotions. And the aim to detect those emotions on the other end. So we are measuring sending and response from biophysical measurements. This is electroencephalography. electrophotonics, and balancing platform. So we can really detect the moments of sending and receiving. And in all our experiments, we demonstrate that it is no time shift.
Not zero.
Zero.
Instantaneous action.
Field is a powerful source of energy and information that literally tells all the cells in your body what to do. It exists within and is a part of a universal ocean of electromagnetic energy and information which can be accessed by the human mind when it connects to the heart. The information that can be accessed by the mind through the heart is what we call heart intelligence. It includes and transcends the information we gain through 5 physical senses, adding a new dimension to human intelligence that expands human consciousness and empowers the mind.
Feeling love, your DNA unwinds, reproduces, and carries on the processes of life. When you are stressed, anxious, and incoherent, it tightens up and puts itself into a protective mode. Your heart contains its own knowledge. It has its own brain, and it contains its own nervous system. Your heart stars the knowledge of what you really desire, what will bring you to a state of the greatest sense of peace, and is only awaiting your attention to its knowledge base.
We did an experiment here at HeartMath to study how the information flows between the heart and the brain. And we actually discovered something quite remarkable, something that surprised us. The participants in the study were connected to various sensors to measure their brain waves, their heartbeats, and so on. And then they were exposed to various images. Some were high arousal, like a car crash or a snake striking, while others were low arousal images, like bunny rabbits and nature scenes. The participants were asked to push a button. They then saw a blank computer screen for 6 seconds. The computer then randomly selected one of these photographs that it displayed for 3 seconds. After that, the screen went blank for 10 seconds. And they were prompted to push the button again, and they repeated this protocol about 30 times. When we analyzed all the data, the results were astounding. The heart seemed to know the images before the participants ever saw the images with their eyes. If the future picture was going to be one of the emotionally arousing ones, the heart rate started to drop about 5 seconds before the image was randomly selected to be shown on the screen. So nobody could know what this future picture was going to be. The heart had a much greater deacceleration than if it was going to be a calm picture. These results have since been replicated in many different independent labs around the world, actually. Well, a lot of people say that I don't feel it in my heart, I feel it in my gut. But here's what's really happening. The information comes to the heart first. The heart then sends a different signal to the brain, which we can measure. Then you have a brain response, and then a body response. And with the body response, like the feeling in the gut or the hair on the back of the neck, is where it becomes conscious. But the real flow of information is heart, brain, body. And this is all happening many seconds before the actual event occurs. So what this body of research is telling us is that the heart seems to be connected to a type of intuition that is not bound by the limits of time and space. But what is that source of intuition? What is the heart connected to? And how can we learn to tap into more of that?
When we have a feeling in our hearts, we're creating electrical and magnetic waves inside of our bodies that extend beyond our bodies into the world around us. And what's so interesting is the research shows that those waves extend not just 1 meter or 2 meters, many, many kilometers beyond where our heart physically resides. So right now in this room is having an effect on Italy beyond this building, beyond these walls. And you'll see this afternoon when many, many people get together with one feeling, many hearts come together and create one feeling, it can change the world, and you'll see just how much. But it's only a miracle until we understand the science. Then it's no longer a miracle, it becomes a technology, a powerful internal technology. So this film was created in a medicineless hospital in Beijing, China. Medicineless hospital, no medicine hospital. I like that hospital. This film shows a woman who has been diagnosed with a cancer in her bladder, a 3-inch diameter cancer in her bladder, and Western doctors say they can do nothing. They say, we can't help you. So she has gone to a clinic in China where they think differently, and they apply the technology from the ancient wisdom that is the same as the science that we just saw. So what you will see is this. There are 3 practitioners, 3 people trained to feel just the right feeling, the precise, correct feeling in their hearts. They create the feeling as if the woman is already healed. They create the feeling as if the woman is already healed. Now, we will look inside of her body through a sonogram, through ultrasound. We can look into her body and we can watch her cancer disappear in 3 minutes in the presence of the language that heals. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that? Does that make sense? Would you like to see that? Okay, good. So what you will see is the woman is awake, she is conscious, she has no anesthetic, she believes in the process, she believes in what is happening. And there are 3 practitioners who are trained to create the feeling in their bodies as if the woman is already healed. And then on the computer screen, we will see 2 images. One image is before the healing, and one image is actual time, real time, so we can see the healing happen. And while the healing is happening, you will hear the practitioners chant a word. And I want you to know there is no magic in the word. It could be any word. But this word is the word that they have chosen that reinforces for them, that tells them the feeling. So they agreed that this is the word that would create the feeling for them. But it could be any word. I want you to know that. So I'm explaining this now, and we'll explain it again as we go through the film.
Over 8 years, the center has successfully treated more than 180 types of illnesses, including bladder cancer.
看到了没有？就是在这个膀胱，三角球的左侧有好一个压弧，这么一个， 法器，各位老师，咱们一块用你俩法器。对。人就想着一下就彻底散掉。你放手，老师在这儿。给我听一听。小了，站住！好，没了，再站住！没了，好，没了，站住！没了，消除场，没了，把场打破，没了，好了，没了，好了，哎，不好意思，能看出来，这是您几秒？这边10分钟下来，那个力度就6分钟哈，60分钟，上来，走了，好，没了。
She's awake, she's conscious. There are 3 practitioners behind her. And here is the tumor, right here. The black is the emptiness of her bladder. This is the tumor. And now they take a snapshot for reference, a snapshot now. Okay, this is the real time. So this is now reference. This is actual time. This right here. Okay. This is 2 minutes, 40 seconds. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. This, on the left-hand side, is the reference tumor. On the right-hand side, the tumor is gone. In the Western way of thinking, modern science says this is a miracle because they do not understand the field that connects everything, and they do not understand the language that speaks to that field. But once we understand, that is no longer a miracle, that is a technology. And you listen to the chant. Wa sa 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 sa. Okay, the word that they are using, wasa, loosely translated, means already happened. It's already done. In their mind and in their heart, they're coming from the place that the healing has already happened. Not that it's going to happen, and not that it's about to happen, or that it's a long, slow happening, that it has already happened. And this is important because the field of energy that we are about to discuss is a mirror. A mirror, it reflects our feeling of what we are experiencing in the moment. So if our belief is that our healing is about to happen, or that our perfect relationship will come to us someday, or that our abundance in the bank will happen someday, the field will keep reflecting someday, 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 because it is open-ended. There is no outcome. There is no conclusion. This is a very subtle, very powerful understanding of how this field works. This field that we're about to discuss now, the divine matrix, is a field that mirrors now, not in the future, not in the past, this moment. So what we choose to experience in our lives, we must first feel in our hearts as if it has already happened. And this is something that happens all the time in this part of the world. It's not one-time only healing. They do this all the time. But when Western scientists see this, it makes no sense, because Western science says that our beliefs and our feelings and our emotions have no effect on the world outside of our bodies. But we know that that's not true. The experiments that we showed just before the break, the 3 experiments, what they showed is that human DNA has a direct effect on our physical world. 1. Number 2, they showed that human emotion changes the DNA that is changing our physical world. And it's happening because there's a field that connects everything together. The experiments suggest that Max Planck's matrix, this matrix, is the conduit. Now, the idea that everything is connected is a very old idea. Even in science, in the late 1800s, there was a belief that there was an invisible web of energy that connects everything in the 1800s. And scientists were in a very heated debate, very controversial, as to whether or not this field exists. There was a very famous experiment that was conducted to determine if the field called the ether field actually existed. In the year 1887, the very famous Michelson-Morley experiment was designed to tell once and for all, is the field here or no? Yes or no? The field exists? It does not exist. In my opinion, it was a good experiment. However, it was poorly interpreted. For over 100 years, our science has been based in a belief that is incorrect. It's incorrect. Now, this is very interesting. 100 years later, 1986, the United States Air Force repeated that experiment. 1986, the United States Air Force replicated the Michelson-Morley experiment. They published the results in the very prestigious journal Nature, the scientific journal Nature. What they found was this. They repeated the experiment with good equipment, much better equipment. The bottom line is that the field exists. They found that the field is actually there. This is reported in August 1986, the journal Nature, volume 322. They said, the field is there. And not only is the field there, it measured precisely the way that Michelson and Morley had predicted 100 years earlier. They just didn't have the equipment to work this out. Now, why don't we know about this? This should have made the cover of every major magazine and newspaper. This should have been on CNN headline news or Sky News. But this changes everything for the scientists, because the textbooks all say the field is not there. Entire careers are based on the field not being there. And now the field is there.